How do you say your name?
Hello, Mailana.
Mavromatis. So you're all in Irvine.
Yes, we are. How about you? You're in San Francisco.
I am, but I grew up in La Habra and I went to law school at Western State University, which is right there. So
where in San Francisco do you live?
I actually don't live in San Francisco. My office is in Walnut Creek. It's in the East Bay.
I see. Oh.
But nobody knows Walnut Creek. So, you say Walnut Creek and they're like, where are you?
Everybody here seems to know Walnut Creek. So, right?
Oh, very nice. Well, hello. And thanks
Very surprising. Very surprising.
Walnut Creek's very nice.
We'll start in just another minute.
Yeah, good.
So, Mailana, we're going to cover more today than just the moderate fire zones, right? And the fire disclosure update. It seems as on the flyer, it says we're going to cover SB 8, 9, and 10 also.
We're going to cover whatever it is you want to talk about. Because
I say right now, the moderate fire zone requirements, the NHD report, interpreting that information, how to fill out the FHDS disclosures that are statutorily required. So to help us help our clients, that would be key for us in terms of being very knowledgeable about those disclosures.
Absolutely, definitely. Okay. Right. So all kinds of exciting things to share with you today. There's new laws, the new laws that are just, to be honest with you, a little boring. Are we ready? Are we ready to rock and roll or not?
Just about. I'm going to introduce Christina Guerra. Christina, please step in front of the camera. She's with Property ID, and she has brought Mailana for us today.
Good morning, everyone. I have to see everyone over the desk over there. Good morning. So my name is Christina with Property ID. I'm the sales director. And I'm super delighted to be here today. Thank you to Richard and John for allowing me to harass them during the holidays and allow me to come in and share with you all the exciting and sexy things about NHD. Did you not know the NHD was exciting and sexy?
We're going to find out today.
We're going to find out today. But we do have a very special guest speaker, and it's Mailana Mavromatis. She is our in-house, well, I don't say in-house, she is Property ID's attorney. And she specializes in protecting agents through non-disclosure lawsuits. Hopefully we don't have any. And there's just a lot of information that we want to share and go over today. So if you guys have questions, feel free to raise your hand. We're going to send all the information at the end of the meeting. So everything we share will be sent to you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mailana, take it away.
Hello. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. It's good to see you. My name is Mailana. I have been Property ID's lawyer for 25 years. I am the past president of the real estate section of the Bar Association here in the East San Francisco Bay. I am part of Kids in Cancer Camp Agape, which is a 4-night camp for terminally ill children and their families. And before that, I did divorces in Beverly Hills, which was great money and the worst work you could ever do. Okay, so there's so much going on. There's a couple of new laws. The first one is the fact that the natural hazard disclosure statement has changed in order to finally catch up to what Property ID has been doing for 25 years. So why do I say that? 25 years ago, I read every single word. It was a big paper chase about the law. And I went to Property ID's board and said, if you are supposed to be doing disclosures on behalf of real estate agents in real estate transactions, then we are legally required to disclose the fire hazards based on local maps. So Property ID started including the local fire map disclosures 25 years ago and started doing the high fire disclosures. And come now 2024, the state of California figured out, actually they figured it out in 23, that no other natural hazard disclosure company was complying with the law. Property ID has been accused of over disclosure. There is no such thing. Property ID is complying with the law for you. If other natural hazard disclosure companies are not providing complete disclosures, it's something you need to pay attention to, because ultimately they're doing it on your behalf. So there's another law. It is Assembly Bill 968, and that is the new flipper law. So flippers who, for example, somebody bought a property within the last 18 months, they are legally required to disclose any room additions, structural modifications, alterations, repairs that they've done to the property, and provide the name of the contractor, provide copies of permits, or where the buyer can obtain copies of permits. And I'm sharing this with you because one of the questions I get all the time is this. Hello, Mailana. My seller just bought this property 6 months ago, and now he's flipping it. Do we need a new natural hazard disclosure report? And the answer is yes, absolutely. This is a new transaction. So maybe your current seller was the buyer before. Well, now they're not the buyer anymore. They're the seller. So the parties are different. So the disclosures have to be made again. Maps get updated. The tax rolls get updated. You need to make sure that you know, there's the parties are different. So you have to make sure you have a new disclosure. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away called Sacramento, the state of California decided that the sellers need to make disclosures about the properties that they're selling to the buyer. Of course, the items that only the seller knows about would be made on the real estate transfer disclosure statement. But the state of California also requires the disclosures that most sellers don't know about. Natural hazard disclosures. I can pretty much bet my shoes that none of your sellers know if their home is in a liquefaction zone. They just don't know. They probably don't even know what liquefaction means. So I'm going to share with you the law so that you can have a look. Oh, I can't screen share. Okay, well, if you want to let me screen share, then I'll share. Otherwise, I'll just talk. Okay. All right. So the state of California passed Civil Code Section 1103. 1103, you could Google this or DuckDuckGo it or whatever it is you use to search, so that you can read this on your own. It reads, quote, a seller's agent or a seller of real property. It does not read transaction coordinator. It doesn't read escrow officer. It's very clear about who bears the burden of making the disclosures and who assumes the liability for making the disclosures. And that is, thank you, that is a seller's agent. See that? Here is the code. A seller's agent. So if your escrow officer is choosing your natural hazard disclosure report for you, they will never shield you from liability because they are not named here. It's you, a seller's agent for a seller of real property shall disclose. When the law uses the word shall, it is the highest directive in the law. Shall disclose to any prospective buyer is not the one buyer you are in contract with, but anybody who might want to buy this property. Any prospective buyer could be sitting in Wyoming right now in their jammies looking at properties in Irvine. So law requires that the natural hazard be made available to any prospective buyer. The way it's done here in the San Francisco Bay Area, an agent will get a listing, get the seller to review it and sign it. The agent will sign it, then they will upload it to the MLS with a little note. Hey, all you buyers out there in Wyoming in your jammies, review these disclosures, sign them, and return them with your offers. That eliminates the 5-day right to terminate the contract that comes with this law. So I have a horrible story to share with you, because sometimes, you know, horrible stories are a way in which to learn. An agent called me. Her name was Sandra, and I can tell you her name because she's far away from you. Sandra called me and she was crying on the telephone. She said, I had a $4 million listing in Alamo. Alamo is a little swanky part of the East Bay here. And she said, I always use this one escrow officer for all my listings. And she's so good to me. She always orders my property ID report for me, and she does everything. So I just don't even have to think about it. But the buyer asked for a different escrow company for this transaction. So there was a different escrow officer. So this escrow officer did not order any natural hazard disclosure report. So she says, a few days ago, the buyer's agent calls me and says, you know, my buyers are starting to rethink this whole thing. And they're wondering if maybe we can get an extension or, you know, maybe talk about this a little bit more. And Sandra tells me, I told that agent, no, your buyers have removed their contingencies. We are good to close in a few days. I got commission on a $4 million transaction coming, right? She says, then she got an email from the buyer's agent that stated we are reviewing all of our disclosures again, and we noticed that the natural hazard disclosure report was never sent to us. Can you please send it over right away? So Sandra tells me she ordered a property ID report. She immediately sent it over to the buyer's agent. Sure enough, got a cancellation. Oh, you see, we received this natural hazard disclosure report that states this property is not in a special flood hazard zone, but my buyers would like to be in a special flood hazard zone. So they are hereby invoking their 3-day right to terminate the contract. And of course, the sellers fired Sandra. So this is an awful story. This is how Sandra did not comply with the law. The law is there to help you. Had she made sure that the minute she got the listing, she ordered a property ID report, had her sellers sign it, upload it to the MLS, had the buyers return it with their offer, done. She would have closed that door. The buyers would not have been able to walk away. So that is a tough lesson to learn. Further in the law, it states this. It states that you acknowledge that you have exercised good faith in the selection of a third-party report provider. Good faith is the highest standard of honesty. That means that if you think one report is better than others, you are obligated to, and in good faith, you must select the better report for your clients. So I was fortunate enough to be included in a presentation that FEMA presented. FEMA, that is my least favorite 4-letter F word. So FEMA did this presentation where they said something quite compelling. This is the engineer from FEMA. Oops, sorry, wrong way. That was speaking. And there she is. And she was talking. And while she was talking, I took a screenshot of her screen, and I found item number 2 to be so compelling. FEMA draws maps upon which the federal government imposes on a lender to impose on a buyer to maintain flood insurance. And yet FEMA is now telling us that water does not read flood maps. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So I was trying to undergo a remodel about 15 years ago. My permits were denied because even though my house was not in a special flood hazard zone, my house was close to the special flood hazard zone. The special flood hazard zone was 250 feet away. So I am sharing with you this property on Yellowwood Way in Irvine. And when you go, why am I sharing this with you? Interesting. A special flood hazard area. Do you see this? It says no. In fact, every natural hazard disclosure report will read no, because this property's 4 corners do not touch the special flood hazard zone. But when we go into the flood section, very interesting, it says, again, this property is not in a special flood hazard zone, but it is within 300 feet of a special flood hazard zone. Why? Because the city at its discretion could withhold the issuance of permits merely because of the fact that water does not read flood maps. Did you know that Property ID has been providing this disclosure in your reports for the past 15 years? And no other natural hazard disclosure company includes this very important disclosure information. So since we're here, I do want to share a couple of other things with you. This is another thing you will only see in a Property ID report, and that is FEMA's community rating system. So this property is in class 9 for FEMA's community rating system. And if you are in class 1, it means you are the best prepared. And you can receive up to 45% discount on flood insurance when your community is better prepared for flooding. So what else do I want to share with you? I do want to share with you something very exciting. Property ID has the most diverse team. The president of Property ID is Chinese, and Property ID offers its report in Chinese because we do know that people like to read disclosures in their own language, right? And here's another one. Property ID has been providing peligros naturales en español for 3 years now. So here it is. It's in Spanish. Tienes preguntas? Chat con Sammy aquí. Sammy is the vice president of client relations for the past 22 years. She is not a robot. She is not an avatar. She's a beautiful, wonderful human being. And you can chat with her right there directly from the report. And as you can see, the entire report is summarized in Spanish. And if you don't feel comfortable reading Spanish, you can always click English right there at the bottom. One more thing I do want to share with you is I personally am allergic to math. I don't like it at all. However, there is this wonderful little tool that some disclosure companies charge an additional fee for, but it's included for free in your property ID reports. And that is the future tax estimator. So there you go. You click on that and you can see that the prior assessed value of this property is $3 million, $3,978,000. Well, you know, it's out of my price range, so I'm going to offer 2 million. Oh my gosh, I'm sure I don't have enough zeros in there. Oh, I do. Okay. Then I have to select an estimated closing date. So it's really important that you put the purchase price and you put the estimated closing date and you hit calculate. And it will give you the property taxes, the supplemental property taxes, and all that exciting stuff. And you did not have to break a sweat doing any math whatsoever. So I just want to show you real quick that this is the landing page, and you can go anywhere in the report from this landing page. You see this property actually is close to a fault. So that's that. You guys have any questions about anything so far?
Anybody? No. What do you mean when you say when it says that water cannot read a flood map? I don't understand that.
Okay.
And I'm probably not the only one.
Yeah, no, I believe me, I get it. Okay, so I will share. This is not my quote. This is my least favorite 4-letter F word FEMA's quote. There it is. Water does not read flood maps. What that means in very clear language is that FEMA prepares their flood maps, but that doesn't mean that the flooding is going to surpass their boundary line, which means that they're pretty good estimates, but not sure. The reason why I'm sharing this with you is because what we saw in the spring, we had that rain that was just out of this world. We saw so much rain that we saw that there was flooding beyond the FEMA flood zone boundaries. So FEMA is telling us that water doesn't read flood maps, which we know because we saw it, right? But only property ID is giving you that beyond the boundary flood disclosure. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to share with you that I don't do social media. And the only reason I'm sharing this with you is because I want to apologize in advance in the event you try to friend me on this or that. You will never hear back from me. And it's not because I don't like you, it's because I don't do social media. There is only one place I do check periodically from time to time when I feel the need to scare myself. And that social media platform is called Nextdoor. I don't know if you've heard of it. I'm sure you have. It's like Facebook, but these horrible people are not your friends. So this lady had moved into my neighborhood and she posted on Nextdoor, "Hey, everybody, I'm new in the neighborhood. And everything was all good and fine before I bought my house. But now, oh, there's a crack developing in my dining room and the floors in my foyer are sloping. So I'm putting this on Nextdoor because, you know, y'all know the neighborhood better than I do. Is this common in our neighborhood? Is this because we've had all this rain after 6 years of drought, or is this just me?" So I was reading this and I said, "Oh, honey, that's just you." But another lady in my neighborhood, this is my neighbor, Carolyn. Carolyn is my neighbor who, she has too much time on her hands. She has a comment for everything. Carolyn is my neighbor who knows where all the missing cats go. Carolyn is my neighbor who posts photographs of license plates of the speeding teenagers. Okay, that's Carolyn. So this is how Carolyn replied to our new neighbor. Christina, can you read that?
I would go after the seller, but go hard on the realtor. The realtor is the expert and should have made sure this was disclosed.
You see that? This is what they're saying out there. This is why I don't like social media. There was a time when the only person you had to be concerned about maybe was the person who lives right across the street from the buyer, or the person who lives right next door coming over with cookies and saying, hey, welcome to the neighborhood. You didn't get rid of the rat problem that was in that house. Oh, there was a horrible rat problem there. Oh, they didn't tell you? You know, they were supposed to tell you about the rat problem. Well, now, thanks to this horrible place called Next Door, now you have thousands of Carolyns giving your clients free legal advice. You know, one thing we're seeing a lot, actually, I apologize, I did not capture, I was reading an article this morning about the fact that people who purchased while they were out of their minds during the pandemic are coming to regret those purchases now. And the reason they're coming to regret it is because they are seeing homes nicer than the home they bought, closing escrow in the neighborhood for far less money. So that's something that's called buyer's remorse, right? I feel buyer's remorse every time I buy a new pair of shoes. But, you know, I can take them back. You know, I have my receipt. I show them, look, I didn't even wear the shoes. I want my money back. But when you're a buyer and you are experiencing buyer's remorse, especially since homes are closing for about $100,000 less than what you paid, your only recourse is what? Is to sue. That's the only thing you can do if you are a buyer and you are unhappy. So I'd like to share with you a directory of lawsuits, because you know what? I know that you don't know when realtors are getting sued, because realtors don't skip around the grocery store saying, hey, everybody, guess what? I'm getting sued. List your house with me. But this is a directory of 262 natural hazard disclosure related lawsuits. Every single one of these lawsuits is natural hazard disclosure. And I'll bet of the 262 lawsuits on the list, you certainly have heard about the first one. Easton versus Strasburger. It's the first one on the list because it is the one that made law. Buyers in California are legally entitled to receive all facts materially affecting the value or desirability of the property. I know you know that. You've heard it. You've probably said it. You've probably had nightmares about it. Well, what does this mean right here? What does that word mean? Think about it. I mean, you've heard about it a lot. You've read about it. You've said it. What does it mean? It means this. I want. I don't want. That's it. That's all it means. And a buyer can sue you for that. I don't want. And do they? Of course they do. Look at the next lawsuit on the list. Cleckley versus Coldwell Banker. Buyers, sorry, I don't want you to get seasick. I'm trying to get it right. I'm trying to see it there. Buyers suffered no loss. No landslide happened. But after the close of escrow, the local Carolyn came over and said, hey, didn't you know this whole neighborhood is in a local landslide zone? The buyer said, I never would have desired to buy a property that's in a local landslide zone. Buyer got $1 million. for I don't want. So it's very important to know that there are lawsuits and more are coming. I'd like to share with you the evolution of a lawsuit. By the way, I will be happy to send this information to you if you want to enter your email in the chat. Enter your email address in the chat so that I can, don't worry, I'm not going to tell you that your automobile insurance is expiring or anything like that. I'm only going to send you this stuff. So the evolution of a lawsuit. A buyer will close escrow and notice that there's a dark circle forming in the dining room on the ceiling. And the buyer will call a roofer. The roofer will come and say, so this roof is defective. I took pictures all over your roof on my phone so I can show you all the patches that were done. But the patches aren't doing anything because the roof is defective. So you need to rip out this roof and we need to put a new roof in there because it's going to continue to leak. I can put a new roof for you in June. The second week of June, I'm free for $60,000. So you know that all these things are going through the buyer's head right now. The roof is defective. $60,000. June. It's raining cats and dogs right now, and it's going to rain a heck of a lot before June shows up. And this guy is telling me this roof is defective. I never would have desired to buy a house that has a defective roof. I would have asked for a credit before the close of escrow. I would have asked the seller to fix this before the close of escrow. Here I am now, and I've got a defective roof. Oh, hell no. Buyer is going to jump on that horrible place called Nextdoor. Hey, neighbors. I'm the person who bought the house at 1313 Mockingbird Lane 4 months ago. I want to ask you, did any of you ever notice a roofer up here before I bought the house? Who do you think will be the first person to reply? Carolyn. Yes. The local Carolyn will be the first person to reply. And Carolyn will say something like this. Oh, yes, welcome to the neighborhood. I have been living right up the street from you for the past 42 years. In fact, yes. The seller of your home had a roofer up there right before he listed the property. And as a side note, we're all happy he moved away because none of us liked him. And there was a roofer up there. I would go after him if I were you, but go hard on the realtor because the realtor is the expert and should have made sure this was disclosed. Here is the phone number of my son-in-law. He's an excellent lawyer in town, and he won't charge you anything until he wins the case for you. And he's very good, my daughter says, right? So, of course, the buyer will call up Carolyn's son-in-law, who's going to say this. Okay, so your little $60,000 leaky roof doesn't justify my attorney fees. It's not enough. I need to make money too. I'm still paying my student loans at Western State University College of Law. So I need to make money. So here's what you need to do, buyer. You need to go home and print out, okay? I'm a lawyer. I like paper. Don't you email me anything. Don't cloud my email box with a bunch of crap until I ask you for it. I want paper. Print out every single document of and concerning your purchase of this property. I do want to see the quote for your new roof on the top. I want a copy of every Post-it note. I want a screenshot of every text message, every disclosure, every document, everything. Make sure the natural hazard disclosure report is in there also, because we can only demand cost to repair, cost to replace if something is wrong or missing in the real estate transfer disclosure statement, like your leaky roof. But if something is wrong or missing on the natural hazard disclosure report, it's a lot more interesting as far as what we can ask for in damages. The very last thing I want to see in that piece of paper, that pile of paper, is the advertisement you saw to purchase this property. I will build a case for you, buyer. Don't you worry about your agent. Your agent has insurance for this purpose. Carolyn's son-in-law might spend a couple of hours preparing what's called a pre-litigation letter. Pre-litigation letter is basically 3 pages of legal mumbo-jumbo, lawyer bully tactics designed to scare your pants off and keep you up at night. They're very effective. Carolyn's son-in-law may also include a copy of a draft of a lawsuit. We might even say draft as a diagonal there with your name on it, just to show you that Carolyn's son-in-law means business. And in the pre-litigation letter, Carolyn's son-in-law might, if he knows what he's doing, he's going to say things like this to you. My client has purchased the property. This office represents my client who purchased this property on Yellowwood Way in Irvine. And it has come to my client's knowledge that several disclosures that materially affect the value and desirability of this property were not made. Most specifically, it was not disclosed to my client that this property is within 300 feet of a special flood hazard zone, preventing my client from building the additional dwelling unit for my client's mother-in-law. You have failed to disclose the fact that this property is very close to the Shady Canyon Fault. You have failed to disclose the fact that this property is in a liquefaction zone on 3 maps, including the city. You have failed to disclose the fact that this property has expansive soils with high susceptibility to shrink swell. You have failed to disclose the fact that this property is in the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. You have failed to disclose the fact that this property has the endangered thread-leaved brodea on this property, all of which are items that you have failed to disclose and affect the value and desirability of this property, none of which my client wished to purchase when buying a home. My client wishes to settle this dispute amicably and avoid litigation. Please contact me at your earliest convenience, indicating that you too intend to settle this dispute amicably. Otherwise, we will go forward in the next 15 days and file this lawsuit against you, as is my client's rights. Very truly yours, Carolyn's son-in-law. How easy was that? It's a good old-fashioned shakedown. It's very effective. So I want to ask you this question. Do you know the #1 reason agents get sued? Not only in California, but throughout the United States. What is the #1 reason agents get sued?
Disclosures.
Yes. My gosh, you caught me off guard. Good job. Yes, you're a room full of smarties. I'm going to eat a smartie in your honor. The #1 reason agents get sued is non-disclosure. So let me ask you a question. Do you think it's wise to include disclosures that you believe are missing? No. So if you ask a seller, what is the #1 thing that's most important to you? The seller's going to say, I want the cheapest, right? So if you show seller a property ID report and say this report is $99, and you show the seller another report and say this report is $98.50, which one do you think the seller will choose?
$98.50.
You got it. The seller will choose to save 50 cents because the seller doesn't want to spend 50 more cents on anything. Seller wants the cheapest. The number one reason agents get sued is non-disclosure. Seller wants the cheapest. What does the buyer want?
Best.
Yes, that's right. Buyer wants the best. Now, you and I both know that buyers don't read anything. And we know that buyers are liars, okay? They're not going to read anything. They're going to say, yeah, I read it. They're not. They're going to sign it and they won't even process what they read. They're not going to read it until Carolyn comes over and says, didn't you know the Shady Canyon Fault runs right down the street, right? So the number one reason agents get sued is non-disclosure. Sellers want the cheapest. Buyers want the best. Here is a great tip on how not to get sued. Give the buyer the best and tell them this is the best report on the market. Now, how can you say that with any confidence when you in fact do not know the differences in natural hazard disclosure reports? Aha, I'm going to send them to you. But right now I'm going to share a couple with you just so you can see. So here is, what is this? This is a side-by-side comparison. This is one property. This is a natural hazard disclosure report, and this is a natural hazard disclosure report. And all the disclosures are listed down the middle. It gets really interesting halfway down when you see that this company got 3 wrong and did not bother to include 23. You see this list of disclosures right here? This is Carolyn's son-in-law's happy dream come true. These are items that should have been disclosed and could have been disclosed if the buyer received a property ID report, but they were not disclosed. Now, I could be sued personally for sharing this with you, except for the fact that truth is an absolute defense. They've not so much just sent me a nasty phone call asking me to stop. Here's another one. So this is another side-by-side comparison. They got 1 wrong and did not bother to include 16 others, right? Here's another one. Oz is a little pale. I don't know if you can see it. Sorry. They got 2 wrong and did not bother to include this whole list of disclosures. So I'm going to send those to you. So don't worry. You don't have to worry about what you didn't see. I'm going to send them to you. You have an obligation to make sure that you choose for your clients what you personally would want to receive. And if ever you've been in a deposition, or if I hope you've never have been, and I truly hope you never will be. But in the event you're called into a deposition because you're being sued, the lawyer on the other side is going to try to discredit everything you did and said. And they're going to say things like, well, you know, there's 30 natural hazard disclosure companies. Why'd you pick this one? And if you say something like, well, you know, oh, the sales rep for that company brought me a cookie for Christmas. Is that good faith? No. You need to be able to justify what you've done. I ordered this report because of this. I used Property ID because I met their lawyer of 25 years. She sent me comparison studies showing the different disclosures that were missing in other reports. That's why I chose this company. Property ID has named me as an additional insured for $20 million on their E&O insurance. So I do want to share with you a very important lawsuit, but before I do you guys, is additional dwelling units something that's very interesting in your part of town?
It's becoming more interesting now, yes.
Additional dwelling units. Okay, so Senate Bills 8, 9, and 10 were passed by the California legislature in order to make the construction of additional dwelling units faster, easier, and cheaper. Back in 2004, I bought a house, and before I even made an offer, of course, I got the family discount on the Property ID report. Everything was disclosed to me. I knew everything there was to know about this house before I made an offer. But I mean, the kitchen was fabulous. I could just see myself serving pizza in there, you know, not having to cook a thing, but just serving pizza, right? To all my kids' friends. And the school district was amazing. So, you know, I knew everything there was to know, but who cares, right? Because ultimately, this is California. Welcome. So about 10 years later, my father-in-law became very sick, and he was living in Corona, not far from you all. And my mother-in-law, I called her up and I said, listen, we know that my father-in-law is going to be leaving the earth soon. So I want to invite you to come up here and live with us in the Bay Area. And my mother-in-law said to me, oh, hell no. She said, my mother-in-law lived with me. She forced herself into my home. It was the worst 45 years of my life. I won't do that to you or me. And I said, all right, I respect that. What about this? Okay, so we have a nice big backyard and all this space we're not using. What about if we build you your own casita in the backyard? You'll have your own living room. You'll have your own television and kitchen. You can come and go as you please, but we can still keep an eye on each other. What do you say? My mother-in-law said, oh, yes, I would love to come and live with you, so long as I have my own privacy in my own space. So I hired an architect, paid this guy $25,000 to draw up my casita plans. I went into the planning department and they told me this. Oh, no, Mailana. You see, you're planning to put the casita in the backyard, the additional dwelling unit? Well, 250 feet beyond your property line is where the special flood hazard zone begins. And you know, water does not read flood maps. So we can't risk issuing permits because of that. Another problem is that you're close to two faults, the Franklin Fault and the Southampton Fault. The biggest problem, however, is that you have habitat for the threatened California tiger salamander. Don't you touch that salamander, Mailana, they told me. That's a $50,000 fine and a year in jail for you if you do. You'd never know that these California tiger salamanders are threatened in my town because they run amok all over the place. I mean, they are quite pretty. I'd like to catch one and make a belt out of it, you know, but they don't let you wear belts in prison. Anyway, I'm kidding. I won't harm the salamander. So here I am now, I'm coming to you. And I say, you know, I saw this property on Yellowwood Way in Irvine, and I saw it on the internet, and I'm very interested in having a look. Do you think you could show it to me? And you say, let's go. So we're driving together, you and I, and I'm telling you that, you know, I saw it. I think it's a really nice property. If there's not enough room for me to put up like a divider and do like a little kitchen in the house, I am going to need to build a casita for my mother-in-law. And so we get there and you tell me, oh, Mailana, look, just beyond the swimming pool, look at that perfect little flat clearing right there. It's perfect size for you to construct your additional dwelling unit. And I say, let's go write up the offer. So I do. And of course, my offer is accepted. I go to the planning department and they tell me this. Oh, no, Mailana, You see, where you're planning to put your casita, within 300 feet is the special flood hazard zone. And we know that water does not read flood maps. Another problem is that you've got the Shady Canyon Fault, runs right down the street. You're in a liquefaction zone on 3 maps, including our city map, which we take very seriously. You're in expansive soils with a high shrink swell potential. That means that when it rains, the soil under your property swells up like a sponge. And when it's hot and dry in the summer, the soil under your property shrinks like a sponge. So what do you think is going to happen to the structure with all that swelling and shrinking going on? Another problem is that you're in the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. That means that you don't own the water under your property. The state of California does. So you cannot hook up any kind of water system for the additional dwelling unit because of that. The most important problem, however, and the ultimate reason we will deny your permits is because you have the endangered thread-leaved brodea on your property. So we won't let you build your casita. And I'm going to call you up and say, wait a minute. Remember when I was we were going over there, I was telling you my father-in-law is going to die. I need a casita. You sit over there, the clearing. Okay, I can't build my casita anymore. My purpose for purchasing this property is now frustrated. I don't want it anymore. I want my $2 million plus the $25,000 I paid that architect for these plans. But I know that you're all so clever. I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, oh, but Mailana, in this part of town, prices have increased. Let's put your house back on the market, make you some money. And I would say that's an excellent answer. The very last lawsuit of the day is this. Field versus Century 21 Cloden Fornes. This case is very important because the judge ruled in this case, when an agent makes a statement, not knowing if the statement is true, the statement is false, and that's fraud. So I'm sharing this with you because I'm the one who speaks with agents and brokers and lawyers and lenders regarding the property ID report. And I have actually heard agents on conference calls say things like this. Oh, buyer, don't worry about the high fire severity zone. All of California is in a high fire severity zone. That's not a true statement. And I hear this one too. Oh, buyer, don't worry about the Shady Canyon Fault. All of California is in an earthquake fault zone. That's also not a true statement. So don't say things like that. This is what I would do if I were the agent representing the buyer on this property on Yellowwood Way in Irvine. I would email it to the buyer. The E in your email is your evidence. Remember that. Buyers are liars. They don't read anything. And they will never remember any conversation they had with you the way you remember it. Buyers will remember the conversations they had with you the way their lawyer tells them to remember that conversation. Buyers behave very differently when they're heavily represented by legal counsel. So I would email this to the buyer with these words that I will email to you. Hello, my wonderful buyer. Attached is the Property ID Natural Hazard Disclosure Report. Please read it very carefully. If you have any questions about this report, you can chat with Sammy from page 2. You can call them. Here is their phone number. 1-800-626-0106. They prepared this report for you. They are the most qualified to explain it. If you prefer, I can email their lawyer, Mailana, because this is a legal document. And I did enter my email address in the chat box. I can email their lawyer and she can provide us an explanation in writing. Review this report carefully, buyer, sign it, and return it to me. That email is evidence of your fiduciary duty. That email is evidence of your intent to provide complete disclosure. That email is evidence that you have reminded them, this is really important and you need to read it. And that email is evidence that you have directed them to call us, not you. You should never explain a report you did not prepare. Always, the preparer of the report must explain it to the buyers, not you. So, the last thing I would like to ask you is, if you feel confident using Property ID, I encourage you to introduce Christina to your transaction coordinator and to your escrow officer, because again, the law holds you liable. So you want to make sure that you shift that liability to us. And I did enter my email address and my mobile number in the chat box. I welcome you. I encourage you. I invite you. Please call me with any questions you have on your property ID reports. Please don't call me on your divorces. You guys have any questions?
Yes, would you just briefly touch upon the fire hazard disclosure severity zone disclosure? How we should approach that based upon the NHD report?
Okay, well, I will show you.
Thank you.
Show you. I just took a picture of the email addresses. Oh, there was one I didn't get. Okay, hold on a second. Let me just grab that real quick. Okay. All right, so here is this one. So this is a property on Elliott Lane in Coto de Casa. This property is not in a very high fire hazard severity zone today. But once CAL FIRE releases their preliminary fire maps, this property will be in high. Okay, so here is what you do. You go to view forms. This is the most important document in this. You can see this is a 70-page report. This is the most important document. Now, right here, as you can see, it says very high fire hazard severity zone. No, it is located in moderate. AB 38 disclosure form is voluntary. Once the preliminary maps are released, the check is going to be here that this property is in a high fire severity zone, and this will change to required. So let me jump to, actually, I'm going to jump to this one because it's, here we go. So we go to view forms. And here is it's going to say that the completion of AB 38 disclosure form is required. You can schedule your defensible space inspection there. It will have the local vegetation management ordinance. This happens to be Los Angeles. And it'll have all the details about what needs to be done with regard to the disclosure. And it has the local vegetation management ordinance and defensible space. You can go right back there. back and forth. Now, if you're using the CAR form, it's important to know that all you have to do is make sure, because in Orange County, to the best of my knowledge today, there is no city that requires a defensible space inspection to be done before the close of escrow. There are some cities in the state of California that do require a defensible space inspection before the close of escrow. But as of right now, I do not believe that any city in Orange County does. The closest to you is San Diego in the Alpine Fire District. They actually make sure that you have a defensible space inspection conducted before the close of escrow. They make sure. They won't let you close escrow unless you do. So let me share with you one very important tip. Every city and county, because this is the number one question I get from realtors. Every city and county except San Francisco. Just remember that. The People's Republic of San Francisco is an exception, okay? Every city and county except San Francisco has a local vegetation management ordinance. Everybody. And what does it say? It says this: clear the crap from your property. That's it. It says clear the crap from your property. AB 38 does have a point of sale requirement, and here it is. Ready?
Ready.
Either the buyer or the seller must agree in writing that they will assume the responsibility of obtaining a defensible space inspection. That's it. The point of sale requirement is not, we must conduct a defensible space inspection and get the documentation. No. The point of sale requirement is that one of these two will promise in writing that they're going to do it. Of course, it's easiest for the buyer to do it within 1 year from the close of escrow. So that's it, my friends. I got to run. Do you guys have any other questions? By the way, you can email me, you can call me, you can text me. I put my mobile number in the chat box. Please don't call me on your divorces.
One question. If the buyer does not comply with obtaining the inspection with the 1 year following the close of escrow, what are the consequences?
Look at you, smarty. There are none.
No, okay, that was an easy answer.
Oh, you know why? Because, I mean, I have to say, I think that firefighters are some of the bravest people in this country. I mean, if you've ever seen a firefighter at work, okay, just hold on to yourself, because it's quite a sight. And it's something I hope you never see. But I've seen it. The firefighter will put their body between the fire and your home. It's such an act of bravery. But they have no funding. Okay. So they don't get enough money to come out and conduct after the fact inspections. There are only very few jurisdictions in which the fire department and fire authority has enough funding in order to do their job. So I love you. I'll see y'all. Mwah. I gotta go.
Thank you.
Okay. Over there, I will email you my information so you'll have it. So thank you. I gotta go.
Thank you, Anna. She has another meeting. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. We can always bring her back for a little more because there's so much information. I know we kind of went quick. But the other thing is, if you are representing, well, one, we encourage you to order the report at the time of listing. I already have Will set up, so he's been ordering. If you have a TC that you prefer that you work with, have her get the report at the time of listing. This way, like you said, you can upload it to the MLS. Less likelihood for a cancellation. There's no charge for the NHD unless escrow closes. So if it doesn't close, then there's no charge. Don't worry about it. I mean, just let us know. The other thing, if you are representing the buyer, you can request property ID, and if the listing agent is fighting you back and you already know that the comparison reports, right, they're missing disclosures, you don't want to get in any lawsuits, you want to be protected, you can call me. We can kindly ask them first. If they want to play hardball, then we can send them the comparison report, or we can get Mailana involved and she will do her job. That's why you say push it back on us. We are here to support you and make sure that you get, get what you want and are protected. And there's been times where I have to get involved and get Mailana involved, and it's they don't like it. They still call it a scare tactic, but it's the truth, right? It's the truth. And I hope you guys learned a lot today. And yes,
I have a question. It's all very interesting, but scary.
it is.
Yeah. So I'm listing a house where the house backs to an association slope. And so there's mice that get into the garage. Like, is that something that should be disclosed?
That there's mice that get into the garage.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, there's things that can be done about it, but you want to disclose. Better to disclose than not disclose, right? Better to be honest, and you don't want it to come back and bite you in the tissue.
Basically anything that you would want to know.
Yeah, exactly. Just think about it. I mean, again, when we talk about fiduciary duty, and it just blows my mind, and I just don't think we've been around 50 years. I passed out that flyer. Mr. Siderman, he is the CEO, the founder of the NHD industry, and we just had a meeting with him yesterday. It's pretty exciting. Like, I work for, excuse my French, a badass company. And agents, you guys are busy trying to get clients, listings, things like that, and you're working hard. So you don't, you meet the other rep, and not to badmouth, you have a relationship with them. It's not against the person, it's just education. No, a lot of people don't know. I meet seasoned brokers, agents, escrows, and they don't know the difference in the report. And like she said, she's never got an email or a nasty letter showing the comparison report, because truth is, it's the truth. That's what she does. So we are in the business for, to protect you guys, and we will, if you'd like, we will get you the certificate of insurance. It's a $20 million E&O insurance. And so it names the agents, the brokers, the TCs, and the escrows, all protected.
Okay.
When you use property ID.
All right. Anybody else have any questions?
I just have one
Yes.
question. So is there a reference of time? Say you order it at the initial listing, but say the home doesn't sell for 3 to 6 months. Is there a time that should be updated and renewed?
The report is good for 1 year. So a lot of times maybe the buyer's agent or the other agent say, hey, just let us know, hey, we're going into escrow, and then we'll just get a fresh with a new date, because people don't like the old dates. But it's good for 1 year. Good question. Yeah.
So does that mean updates don't occur more than once a year? If it's good for 1 year? I'm just curious.
The update, so like she was saying, the FEMA as of today.
1998 was the last time an update occurred.
No. So the difference between us, and that's why, so we process our reports within our building. We have people that go out and do the research. So whatever is on FEMA, flood maps, everything is accurate per what the request that we get. And that is part of why, if there's something comes up, we have 0 lawsuits. And I know a lot of people, sorry, they named the name Coldwell Banker, it's not you guys, but it's just true. We're just showing you guys that there's the other cartoon, call it the other cartoon, NHD. They have 42 lawsuits going on today as we speak, but you don't hear about it because they're not going around bragging about it, and we want to make sure you guys are all protected.
Anyone else? No, thank you, Christina.
Thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much. There's pizza in the back. Hopefully no one's on a diet. Yes. Thank you so much. Oh, and if you guys can give me either your business cards or who will send me the email. You guys want to give me your business cards, and Mailana will send you all the information. There's my card. Did I give you my card? Yeah. Thank you.
Carlos put it down, so he'll
Oh.
probably send it out to the office too. Carlos, you all send out
Thank you so
summary to
much.
the office? The
You-
summary-
Send out-
You have everyone's email. You can just maybe give me send it to Mailana or. is that-
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.